In Detroit, we have 40 affidavits, including from Democrats, who say that the center at the Cobo Arena Hall was a disaster.
You're saying that the CIA is behind the Dominion or Smartmatic voting software as well?
We've identified mathematically the exact algorithm they used and plan to use from the beginning to modify the votes in this case to make sure Biden won. And we are going to show the public exactly how rotten the entire state is.
This looks like the effort to carry out an end game in the effort against him. Do you concur?
Oh, absolutely, and it's been organized and conducted with the help of Silicon Valley people, the big tech companies, the social media companies, and even the media companies. And I'm going to release the Kraken.
Welcome to In Pursuit of Truth. This is your host, Sir Patrick Mack. We're back once again. Ladies and gentlemen, I am not the daily news, but from time to time, I've been known to get a little pursuity, and that's what we're about to do today. I want to talk a little bit more about Dominion voting systems. I want to talk a little bit about Sidney Powell. I want to talk a little bit about botnets and a little thing known as the Kraken. So let's get cracking. And this is how we get cracking. You need two things warmed up. Number one, your coffee. Two, your hamstrings. Your coffee should be slightly warmer than your hamstrings. Then fist bump your neighbor. Say, hey, I appreciate you. And then if you're the neighbor, maybe you could say something nice back. I don't know. Insert clever statement here. Let's get started. Starting you off today talking about former federal prosecutor Sidney Powell, right in the kisser. And of course, she is also General Flynn's lawyer, now a Trump campaign lawyer, who suggested in a Sunday interview that there is still more evidence coming out in President Donald Trump's claims of voter fraud and irregularity, saying that we're getting ready to overturn election results in multiple states. Check it out.
And I want to get your take on what you and I spoke about just a few minutes ago, and that is a gentleman named Peter Neffenger. Tell me how he fits into all of this.
Yes, well, he is listed as its former Admiral Peter Neffenger, or retired Admiral Peter Neffenger. He is president and on the board of directors of Smartmatic. And it just so happens he's on Mr. Biden's presidential transition team that's going to be non-existent because we're fixing to overturn the results of the election in multiple states. And President Trump won by not just hundreds of thousands of votes, but by millions of votes that were shifted by this software that was designed expressly for that purpose. We have sworn witness testimony of why the software was designed. It was designed to rig elections. He was fully briefed on it. He saw it happen in other countries. It was exported internationally for profit by the people that are behind Smartmatic and Dominion. They did this on purpose. It was calculated. They've done it before. We have evidence from 2016 in California. We have so much evidence, I feel like it's coming in through a fire hose.
Okay, well, Powell has a lot to say here, but let me stop right there. The chairman of Smartmatic is one Lord Mark Malloch Brown, sits on the British House of Lords, and is a member of George Soros's Open Society Foundations. That's right, he is a member of the board of directors. He was actually formerly the vice chairman of Soros Investment Funds. And I guess this is news that they don't want you to know over there at Smartmatic because it's been removed from their site. But if you can see right here by the search bar, you can see that that is smartmatic.com, and they mentioned him right there, Mark Malloch Brown, former number 2 in the United Nations, as well as having served in the British Cabinet and Foreign Office. So this sounds like some foreign intervention to me, and it looks like they've had a history of some foreign intervention. And according to WikiLeaks documents, these machines were used to rig the elections in Venezuela in 2004 in favor of Hugo Chavez. Let me read this part right here. The Venezuelan-owned Smartmatic Corporation is a riddle both in ownership and operation, complicated by the fact that its machines have overseen several landslide and contested victories by President Hugo Chavez and his supporters. The electronic voting company went from a small technology startup to a market player in just a few years, catapulted by its participation in the August 2004 recall referendum. Smartmatic has claimed to be of U.S. origin, but its true owners, probably elite Venezuelans of several political strains, remain hidden behind a web of holding companies in the Netherlands and Barbados. So these guys are a hot mess all the way around. Smartmatic is part of Smartmatic Corp, or Smartmatic International, which is a Venezuelan multinational company, and their headquarters are in London, but they officially incorporated in April of 2000 in the state of Delaware. I seem to remember another presidential candidate from the state of Delaware. It's escaping me, but we'll get back to that. Now, according to Smartmatic's website, they're saying that Soros doesn't and never had any ownership stake in their company. But if you've been following this channel or others like it for a while, I think we always see that that sort of seems to be the case on the surface with George Soros, but he always seems to have some sort of connection. So I'll let you decide from there. But a couple more things about Mark Malloch Brown. He used to be a journalist at The Economist and was vice president at the World Bank. He was also part of the board for Save the Children International. So, red flag, red flag, red flag. Now, I want to thank one of my viewers, Craig, who sent me this article from Political Moonshine, which highlighted this right here. This is Dominion Diagnostics, not Dominion voting machines, Dominion Diagnostics. Completely different company, I guess. And they do COVID-19 total antibody serology testing. If you don't know what COVID-19 is, that's the Rona, okay? Some of the younger kids in your house, they might call it the Cov. Whatever it is, they do testing for it. I don't need it because I don't have it. Maybe you do. No offense. I did not find any immediate connections to Dominion Diagnostics and the Dominion voting machines, but I found it very interesting that they both work off of these apps. And of course, a lot of businesses use apps these days, but we know that using this COVID-19 app tracking system is really, really sketchy. And I suppose if they were able to fudge the voting numbers, they could also fudge the corona numbers, which is exactly what this article is talking about. Consider that Dominion Diagnostics might test your toxicology samples, drug screenings for employment, for example. At the same time, they could also be tasked to test you for CV-19. Those CV testing systems are also being used in airports to determine flight eligibility, travel restrictions, etc. All this converged data and total control over it could literally change your vote, determine your positive or negative CV status, restrict your travel, result in broad refusal of service, serve to marginalize and control individuals, etc. It presents as a full spectrum system of enslavement with all the pieces in place, assuming there are undiscovered others, which is likely. Okay, so it's hard to really know, but it is a very intriguing theory. But here's what we actually know, and I talked a little bit about this the other day in my last video entitled Glitch, which you can find right here on BitChute. By the way, if you're struggling to see some of those videos on BitChute, you might just have to let them play a little bit, and eventually they will play out. I think those servers are just really overwhelmed. But here's what we do know. In 2016, it was Dominion Voting Systems that was acquired by Staple Street Capital. One of the groups that was overseeing this acquisition was another group known as Kirkland and Ellis. Well, going through the alumni of Kirkland and Ellis, we have a very famous member who briefly served as counsel in 2009 and then rejoined them in 2017, which would have been shortly after the acquisition. And his name is one A.G. William Barr. I know it. So, thanks to Craig for sending me that article, which poses some more questions. And I think these are questions that many of us already have. Exactly where does A.G. William Barr sit? Well, there are a lot of different opinions on A.G. William Barr. I've seen this from years of your comments, and rightfully so. He's a complicated figure. Is it possible that he is meddling with the elections and trying to stymie the president's ability to prosecute people who are actually getting involved with what looks to be not only domestic but foreign meddling into our elections? Is it possible that Barr has seen what's going on and is trying to do his patriotic duty by going back to the DOJ? Like he said himself, he didn't need this job. He came back for his sense of duty. Is that truly the case? Or is there another possibility in which Barr is simply having to reconcile by going back to perform what he may have not wanted to perform before? Well, before you decide, let's run down a few factoids about Mr. William Barr. Well, according to his own words, quote, "I started off in Washington at the Central Intelligence Agency and went to law school at night while I was working at the CIA," William Barr said during an oral history event in 2001. But you may also remember that his first time around, he stonewalled the investigations into the Bush-Clinton CIA crimes involving many things, but in particular the theft of this software known as INSLAW PROMIS. PROMIS stands for Prosecutors Management Information System, and it was software that was being used by the DOJ and later on with a number of intelligence agencies. And it was actually the forerunner to the NSA's PRISM. You've probably heard of that. Those guys have talked about it quite a bit. That was the software that was disclosed by the NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden. This is a really deep story on its own. It involved a couple companies known as Hadron and Systematics Incorporation. This was run by a guy named Jackson Steven, a ton of different Mossad agents, including Robert Maxwell, who is the now deceased father of Ghislaine Maxwell. This also involved Adnan Khashoggi, who was the uncle to slain quote-unquote reporter Jamal Khashoggi. Also Richard Armitage. This software was long being used by one Rafi Eitan, who was Mossad's deputy director for covert operations for quite some time, and it was he that actually recruited Robert Maxwell back in the day, and then he started to sell that software outward. So just like back in the day when Barr was vowing to attack criminal organizations, it appeared that he was indeed protecting them. Now, I also want to point out about this law firm, Kirkland and Ellis. Actually, there are a number of attorneys from that law firm who are working within the Trump administration, but some other notables are Kenneth Starr, John Bolton, Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh, and a couple of their big-time clients were Mitt Romney's Bain Capital and sex trafficker and pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. That's right, who just so happened to be working with Ghislaine Maxwell, who happens to be the daughter of Robert Maxwell. So as you can imagine, the swamp is extremely deep, and I couldn't tell you one way or another that William Barr is going to do the right thing. If we're going by history, I would say likely he is not going to do the right thing. I don't even want to go into his knowledge of the Iran-Contra affair, but let's face it, A.G. William Barr has been around for quite some time, and he's had opportunities to do the right thing and hasn't, and it appears that that may be the case now. Will it be different this time? Hard to really say, but I'm not so sure that he would be the pivotal guy, or at least it seems like maybe he's being put in this position, maybe because we know. Maybe it's because he knows we know. Maybe we know that he knows that we know. You know? I don't know. All right, for now, let's go back to Sidney Kung Powell, who, along with Rudy Gotcha by the Giulianis, have been doing the interview circuit on the various quote-unquote news stations. And you just saw a clip of her with Maria Bartiromo, and she also mentioned in there that not only did she believe President Trump was leading by hundreds of thousands, but by millions of votes. And that sounds like a pretty big claim. And like she said, she doesn't make those claims without strong, hard evidence. And she seems to have plenty of affidavits and who knows what else. But she also mentioned that she was gonna release the Kraken, you're backing. Well, I was tracking this article from Medium from the other day, and I wanted to share it with you, and I actually had it opened up so that I could record it right now. And here we are looking at a 410 error. This post is under investigation or was found in violation of the Medium rules. Translation: we were about to spit some hot truth, but we can't have that. So back to your regularly scheduled programming.
Come on, man.
Yeah, come on, man. Come on, man. Well, I think what we may have been talking about here may be this Kraken HTTP. It's a botnet, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. But first, let's find out what a botnet is. Learning stuff.
To inflict the most damage with the least effort, hackers turn to creating an army of devices that can infiltrate and infect other devices, all on their own. This army is called a botnet. A botnet is a collection of internet-connected devices, like laptops, servers, mobile devices, and any IoT devices that are infected and controlled by a common type of malware. Users are usually unaware of a botnet infecting their system. Botnet attacks frequently go undetected because they involve a wide network of devices that operate in the background of a user's device and occupy little bandwidth. A bot is an infected device, which then becomes part of a network of infected devices controlled by a single attacker. A bot is sometimes called a zombie, and a botnet is sometimes called a zombie army. Both names, bot and zombie, imply the mindless automatic generation of something malicious by possessed agents. Botnets send email spam, engage in click fraud campaigns, and generate malicious traffic on servers. There are many different types of botnets, like distributed denial of service attacks, zombies, bot masters, and spamming through rented botnets. Some notorious botnets discovered in the recent past include Zeus, which uses a Trojan horse program to infect vulnerable devices and systems; Serisby, one of the largest botnets in the world, which infects users' computers to send out massive amounts of email spam; Methbot, which produces fake clicks and mouse movements, and forges social media account logins to front as legitimate users to fool conventional ad fraud detection techniques; and Mirai, which is malware that sends fake DDoS traffic and scans the internet for insecure connected devices while avoiding IP addresses belonging to major corporations and government agencies. There is no one-size-fits-all solution to botnet detection and prevention, but manufacturers and enterprises can battle botnets by incorporating strong user authentication methods, secure remote firmware updates, secure boot, advanced behavioral analysis, automation, machine learning, and artificial intelligence.
Learning stuff. All right then, did you learn something? Me too. According to Smartsheet.com, the Kraken came out in 2008. Kraken infected machines at many Fortune 500 companies and sent billions of email spam messages daily. The people who designed Kraken built it to evade antivirus software. As a matter of fact, an internet security company known as Damballa said at the RSA in 2008 that the Kraken bot army was twice as big as a previous one known as Storm. Evades over 80% of installed antivirus software. Which was pretty big because at the time, Storm was the largest botnet that was out there, said to be powerful enough to knock entire countries off of the internet. The Wikipedia entry Storm botnet gives an accurate accounting of how the Storm worm, a Trojan horse that spreads through email, is used to recruit infected computers into the Storm botnet. According to TechRepublic.com, Kraken uses command and control servers that are located in different parts of the world. Each infected computer has a list of the CNC servers being command and control. If the current CNC server is disabled, the zombies check in with the next server on the list. Using this approach eliminates the problem of having a portion of the botnet go down if one of the peers is taken offline. Now, the scary stuff. It appears that infected computers don't just belong to what researchers like to call the non-tech savvy computer users. At last count, 50 Fortune 500 companies have compromised computers. So is it possible that this is what Sidney Powell was referring to? Well, let me take you over to gdatasoftware.com. In January 2015, unidentified attackers attempted to infiltrate a multinational enterprise based in the United Arab Emirates using a spear phishing attack with a crafted MS Word document attached to the message. Once it has reached the target, the payload used was designed to work as an information stealer and reconnaissance tool. GData's security experts identified the malware behind this attack and reveal information about the actual power of the malware's tentacles. Now, in this article from 2015, they summarized that the Kraken botnet was likely developed by a beginner. The malware does not include any advanced malware technologies and no groundbreaking innovations, even though those were advertised. And this is the advertisement right here. They were actually advertising this on the dark web. But they came up to three possible conclusions. One, the attacker who had developed the Kraken malware might have chosen to diversify their business and chose to attack special interest targets themselves. Two, the attackers identified infected machines in the business sector and followed the tracks to see what else they might be able to get from the companies. And three, the actual espionage team voluntarily chose to use a kind of usual and rather simple botnet malware in order to distract analysts from seeing a deeper meaning behind this attack and make them disregard it as daily cybercrime business. So there you go. Is it possible that Sidney Powell was referring to this, or was she simply making a metaphor? Well, I suppose that either one is possible, but I couldn't help but remember that this affected Microsoft. And of course, we know that a lot of these machines, we said in my last video, were using outdated Microsoft software. So is it possible that the Kraken is making another appearance and even helping the quote-unquote good guys detect the voter fraud? Well, it's hard to say at this point, but I did find it intriguing, and I most certainly wanted to share it with you. Equally intriguing, I thought, was the fact that this Inslaw Promise software scandal from back in the day that I was telling you about was often referred to as the octopus. Lastly, let me leave you with this from Machine Gun Kayleigh McEnany. After presenting 234 pages of sworn affidavits raising allegations of fraud in Wayne County, Michigan voting, the Wayne County Board of Canvassers has declined to certify their portion of the Michigan vote. And it looks like she's going to be on Hannity. I don't know, maybe I won't make that one. I imagine many of you feel the same way about Fox, who have been revealing their true colors more and more as this goes on. This really should come as no surprise to many of you, but I know that there are still a lot of people who have been hanging on to Fox News as they're one of the last few conservative channels around for a lot of people to go to. But I think we all know where their loyalties lie. Take a look at how they treated former Mayor Rudy Giuliani as he was making the case with the evidence that he's in possession of.
All right, so give us some specifics. What have you got? You've gotten affidavits. Like what kind of evidence is it?
How about 500? It doesn't get covered by the main media. Let me tell you about Detroit. Okay. In Detroit, we have 40 affidavits, including from Democrats, who say that the center at the Cobo Arena.
Smart Cam technology. Smart detected.
Nobody likes smarmy people. Snarky maybe, but not smarmy. Anyway, that's all I got for you for now. As always, if you like this video, please click like, share, and subscribe. Thanks to all of you who are doing that